Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening to our panelists also. Thank you for participating to our panel. As we all know, today is the 4th anniversary of the failed coup attempt in Turkey that took place in 2016. Tonight, we would like to discuss the coup, failed coup attempt and its impact and its somehow relation to the Middle East. We have 4 distinguished speakers. First of all, we have Professor Mehmet Akif Kireçci. He is a member of Presidential Security and Foreign Policies Board. We have also our director, Professor Ahmet Uysal. He's the director of Center for Middle Eastern Studies, ORSAM. And we have Professor Abdülfettah Al-Awaisi. He is a Palestinian origin. He is a professor in Social Sciences University of Ankara. We also have Dr. Mehmet Özkan. He's working for the Turkish Maarif Foundation, and he's based in the United States. So each speaker will touch upon the different aspects of the failed coup attempt. We can maybe start with the Turkey perspective from Professor Mehmet Akif Kireçci. Professor Kireçci, maybe you can elaborate on the failed coup attempt, how the failed coup attempt affected Turkish politics, and also how it has somehow effects on the regional politics as well. Please.
Okay, thank you for invitation and thank you for organizing this panel. Today we are commemorating the 4th anniversary of the failed coup attempt of July 15, 2000. Thank you for organizing. On the night when this all happened, everybody was in shock. Nobody understood in the beginning what really was happening. I think the first we need to explain to people abroad why and how did this happen. First of all, to be in a position to have to explain that the Turkish army is attacking on Turkish people. This is almost an absurd situation. Nobody wanted to believe in this, and whenever you visit many sites abroad, especially in Europe, I meet with people, especially in the beginning, right after the coup, that how would this possible? And is this an orchestrated coup? This is not real. I said in one occasion, for instance, I visited after a couple of months of the coup attempt, Paris, and there was a meeting at UNESCO. After the official meeting, we gathered with our friends from different nationalities, and they kept asking me questions. And they were, I found that they were in disbelief almost that this may not happen, but it did. So I explained what happened, how it happened. They said, "Oh, we didn't know that. Oh, we didn't know that." And I told them that, what did you guys think? We were shooting a new Dan Brown movie on that night as a nation altogether. Yes, it looked very surreal, and it was very impossible to understand why this was happening. But after the coup, as Turkish officials deepened their investigation in order to decode the network, the Gülen network, we understood that they were working on this for almost during the last 4 decades, secretly and very secretively. How did this organization came about? That's one of the major issues that we need to actually highlight first. That is because there was a problem in our democratic mechanism. Why that was the problem? The major problem in our democracy was that certain groups, certain people, certain, for example, practicing Muslims, if you have an accent in your Turkish, if you have coming from this part of the Turkey, but not the other part, you were sort of ostracized from the state mechanisms. You were not necessarily accepted within the higher ranks of the military, within the higher ranks of universities or whatever. If you are practicing Muslim as a headscarving, wearing a headscarf, for instance, they were banned from the university. So there is this gap in our democracy, which opened the way for this kind of organization that they approach to regular people in Anatolia, that if you sort of invest in our network, if you send your sons to our network, maybe there will be a bigger possibility for your sons, for your offsprings, to be employed by the state. So this is how this network actually made its way into the state institutions during the decades. The coup on that night actually came to a point that when, especially after the presidential system was started to be discussed, Turkey increasingly adopted independent policies in the region, and Turkey sort of raised voices for the unfortunate around the world. All of these sort of created a clash between a tutelage mechanism, which actually was an institutionalized mechanism in Turkey since 1960, which was the mother of all coups in Turkey, inspired the 1980 coup and the other interventions, and obviously inspired this. But let me say this, all the pushes, the coup organizers claim that they are somehow reinstituting Atatürkism, reinstituting Kemalism in this country. I believe, on the contrary, that, for instance, Mustafa Kemal prevented many of his friends practicing politics with uniforms. He banned them from the politics with the uniform. He asked his friends if they would like to enter the politics. This should have happened without the uniform. So they used Kemalism or Atatürk's name as a sort of a curtain in an effort to institute a tutelage mechanism within Turkish politics. So the network, the Gülen network, obviously infiltrated into many institutions in Turkey, like the army, judiciary, and police network, police institutions, security institutions, and they sort of infiltrated in a very secretive mechanism. Now we realize better, we see the picture better than ever, that at least if a member, especially in the security institutions in this country, Gülen network, Gülenist people, they don't know more than few people. And even if they know those people, they don't know them by their original name. A lot of people use nicknames and so on and so forth. So how did this all happen is that, especially in the military and security institutions, their numbers increased, their representations increased immensely, and they thought that this is the perfect moment for them to actually strike against the political establishment. Let's remember that, for instance, it took place on July, whereas in August, there's a regular meeting of the military personnel with the president, with the political leaders. They sat down for a few days and they decide who is going to be promoted to the ranks of the generals. So the Gülen network, the FETÖ, realized that hundreds of people were identified within the higher ranks of the army, and they were supposed to be fired on that year's August meeting. So they decided, this is my interpretation, they decided to strike against the Erdogan government, and that would obviously serve for their purpose, that they will orchestrate this coup and seize whole government institutions and perhaps inflict a sort of this destabilization not only in Turkey but also in its surrounding in the Middle East and so on and so forth. So what happened on that night is that first time in our history that Turkish people, with the call of their leader Erdogan, the President Erdogan, they stocked the streets, they filled the streets, and they make every effort with their bare hands to stop the coup from taking place. Obviously, we had more than 250, according to certain numbers. That the number reached 270. People were martyred, and more than 2,000 people were wounded. And this is the first time in our history that a coup was prevented, not by another group of armed people, but by regular citizens, which means that Turkish people deserve democracy and freedom like any other Western European democratic countries. It is nothing less than French Revolution, if I may say that, in its effect and in its enormity and in its importance, that Turkish people deserves democracy and freedom because they actually gained it with their bare hands on that night. So in terms of its implications, what happened after the coup is that the Turkish government, with an administrative decision, decided to cleanse the government institutions from this network. To member of this FETÖ, at that time, up to July 15, their sort of impression in Turkish society was that it was a network, a very altruistic network working for the good objectives. But we realized that in fact, FETÖ was a terrorist network because they killed their own people. The cleansing process started, that they were members or identified members started to be fired from government institutions, government offices, and it is still continuing. Why it is still continuing is because they work very secretively, and still they use a lot of alternative sources when they are trying to connect with each other. So this is a sort of the cleansing mechanism, the cleansing step brought a better functioning institutions within Turkey. For instance, right after a few months of the coup attempt, Turkey sort of sent its troops to Syria, Jarablus operation, and then now Turkish army is operating, trying to save Turkey's interest and regional stability, not only Turkey's interest, but also regional stability, which is without FETÖ, without the members of the FETÖ, Turkish army in fact proved itself as a source of stability in the region, not only for the country. It's operating in Syria, and they are effectively operating against terror networks, PKK, in parts of Iraq and within Turkey, and also now we are very active in Eastern Mediterranean. So what do all these mean is that when you sort of clear out all of the FETÖ members from government institutions, and I believe that it is an ongoing process, Turkish democracy is functioning better, Turkish army is functioning better, and Turkish security institutions are functioning better. So I think this as an introduction would be enough. If there are further questions, we will entertain the questions.
Thank you, Professor Kireçci. Actually, there were major observations from your talk. One of them is you commented as you compared the defense of the Turkish people with the French Revolution. You mentioned that it was nothing less than the French Revolution, which was an important point. And actually, as an outcome also, what you observed is that very correct, that we had much more stronger institutions in the post-coup attempt period. These two was, and as a result, of course, we hope we will have a better functioning democracy and other state institutions, and this is what we are realizing for the moment. Thank you again for your talk, and maybe we can come back to you with the further questions. Now, I would like to continue with Professor Ahmet Uysal. Professor Uysal, maybe you can we can shift to the Middle Eastern implications or relation of the July 15 coup attempt. Maybe I can ask you, how can you relate the July 15 coup attempt with the military coup in Egypt in 2013? Maybe you can start by answering this, and then you can make your own elaboration on the topic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Numan, and also welcome other speakers and listeners and viewers. Today, of course, is like the 4th anniversary, and Turkish people made a history to commit to democracy and their popular will, other than tutelage or other than military regime or somebody else dictating the policies, etc. So this, I see a relation between democracy and decolonization. Of course, Turkey is not colonized, and but it was under pressure from the Western system or world system. Plus, our intellectual pro-Western elites also they thought that Turkey would be like follow the Western steps. There are positive signs and positive aspects and negative aspects to it, but we also gained, self-confidence, democratization, unlike other Middle Eastern countries. Turkish elites, Kemalist elites, also they had to give in to democracy in the aftermath of World War II. And this gave them kind of a supervision or kind of a upper hand, because they are elites, they have different mechanisms, and they also maintained this after the 1960 coup, and they created mechanisms to oversee the political process, didn't trust civilians, but with the potentials we have in the Middle East, oil and gas and youth and trade potential, etc., I think the region is still under pretty much tight control of the mostly Western hegemony. And democracy means that they will be free and more prosperous, which is not the case right now. So I also relate this to the dependency theory, that the world capitalism also creates dependent systems to each other, and they want to maintain this order. But with Turkey, after a couple of coups, or every periodic coups, every almost like 10 years, the Turkish people were very much aware of it. But similar systems like tutelage system like Egypt or Algeria, because the military did not give up on the political design, they did not make themselves felt as much as Turkey. Turkey also, in a way, also we have to say that Turkish military did not stay on power, but they wanted to stay behind, and because of that, in Turkey, we had a very clear anti-military regime sensitivity. And unlike Egypt or some other countries, they say, military is our protector, and we have to, some people, they did not see the danger after the Arab Spring, which allowed people to voice their ideas and opinions and visions, give a big opportunity to the Arab world also to rise up, to get together, also to take care of their economic, social, and political problems. After that, this gave the Arabs also a better chance to move forward, to be more independent, to be more developed, to use their resources effectively, because an Arab world has almost everything from capital to producer, which is youth and manpower, to the market also. But they are suffering from unemployment and political oppression and many other problems. I mean, even the Gulf countries are not distant from these problems. They are not also like perfect. They have maybe financial resources, but they don't use them effectively. So especially the Gulf and Saudi and Emirati line, they were afraid of these democratic trends. They gave refuge to Bin Ali, the first maybe dictator to fall to the Arab Spring, and they give him refuge. And then they slowly supported the counter-revolutionary forces in the region, especially Egypt. Egypt is a critical country with a huge mass, with a critical juncture with East and West, Africa and Asia, Mediterranean to Europe and Indian Ocean, etc. So with the trade routes with the Suez Canal. So Egypt, they paid the price with the military coup. They said Morsi is failure. He's gonna destroy the land, and some people said they cannot wait like three years, which is like a legal term for the second election. But now after 7 years, now they couldn't wait like 7 years. Now Sisi already become like 7 years, and he's targeting like 2030, which is like at least 17 or 20 years. So those people who cannot be patient like for 3 years, now they have to wait for, and they don't have an alternative. They cannot have free and fair elections. So Egypt was critical, similar to Turkey, but the difference is, I think, the Morsi and Ikhwan al-Muslimin, they were novice in a way, amateur politically, didn't understand what's going on, how to, like, if we consider or make a comparison with like a bus, like a school bus or whatever, the public transport. So driver should be more careful with the more maybe bumpy road like Egypt next to Israel. I mean, you are also changing a lot of dynamics in the global scale. I mean, I think Middle East is significant, important, even for the global game, global power struggle with its resources, with the production and youth, etc., and trade potential. So Egypt paid the price, but the difference, the intellectuals in Egypt that supported the coup, saying Morsi is going to destroy Egypt and we cannot even wait one more day. Now I think Egypt is in a worse shape than even the Morsi time, and they did not allow him to continue. Like after 1 year, they stopped him with the military coup, and of course those who support, even the revolutionary youth, I mean, they thought they can, if they depicted, they framed this the coup as a revolution. So they even cheated the youngsters who rebelled against Mubarak. They said, you rebel against Morsi, and because you are strong, which is the revolutionary youth, you can even make the third revolution. Says you, I mean, as much as we destroy or we topple the Morsi regime, you'll be the boss. I mean, they use all kinds of tricks to misguide the youth, and they also, some of them supported the coup, and even intellectuals, even those who, I mean, some academicians I met, they were like supportive of the coup. I met him, like one lady academician giving lectures in America. Met her like 2 years ago. Asked her if she is still, I mean, supporting or regret, I mean, the regime, Sisi regime, or regretting from what she done. She said she's very much disappointed and she didn't expect. But this is the trick. They, like in 2080 coup in Turkey, the instability and the chaos stopped in 1 day after the coup, as if like they prepared, similar to Egypt. You know, they couldn't find oil and gas and basic materials because there's governmental companies, they stopped giving oil and gas to people. After the coup, they released these potentials, and people felt relief in the first couple of days, but they are now feeling the pain overall. And as I said, they in the Middle East, in Egypt, they like to depict military coups as revolutions. This is like happening 3 times now with Abdul Nasser. He made a military coup. They depicted this as a revolution. Of course, after the coup, Abdul Nasser made kind of revolutionary, some reforms. I mean, they changed the course of Egypt a big time, but in essence, it was a military coup. They toppled the Kral Farouk or King Farouk with the military coup and said, claimed that this is a revolution. When Mubarak was toppled, they said this is a revolution. Of course, there were revolutionary forces, but who toppled Mubarak? He did not come, to public and say, I resigned and I am not gonna continue, or people did not take him to court or to prison. Al-Askar or the Jaysh, my mind, when I see Abdülfettah, I tend to speak Arabic. I mean, my mind tells me. But the military, Omar Suleiman, he was the head of the military chief at that time. He announced that he resigned from power, and he actually didn't resign. We did not hear him saying, I am going out, or people did not take him. So it was a military coup. Mubarak go out with the military coup. So second military coup was depicted as a revolution. Then the third one, when they toppled Mursi, Allah yarhamhu, yani, may Allah bless his soul, they also called this as a revolution, but it was not a revolution because, again, military took over the system, political system, and is now playing. Even after Mubarak, military, the Supreme Military Council controlled the transition, etc. And at the end, military still maintaining the status quo, and we see a major deadlock. I mean, a major hurdle because the military regimes don't give up their power and their privileges very easily. So this is the main hurdle in Egypt, and it's gonna take some time to democratize. But you never know. Of course, last year we had some eruption of protest in Sudan, in Algeria, in Iraq, in Lebanon. So as long as these main problems continue, and there is potential also for second or third rounds of revolutionary coming, but I think Egypt is in a bad shape right now. That's all for now. We can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Uysal. The point of self-confidence of Turkish people and Turkish state institutions are also very important, I guess, because this was one of the key for the success of the defense on that night. Unlike in Egyptian case, unfortunately, Egyptian public were not really aware of the danger of a military intervention. So they were not. Actually, some of them unfortunately supported the military intervention, and now they are majority of them probably they are regretful what took place there. So now we can continue with Professor Abdülfettah Al-Awaisi, and he will share with us his experience as an Arab in Turkey during that night, and also he will touch upon some issues with the Israel-Palestine conflict, and also maybe it is relation with the July 15 coup attempt. Please, Professor Abdülfettah.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be with my colleagues, and I feel I'm at home here with my colleagues talking about my experience. I was not, when I came to Turkey 8 years ago, I was not expecting that I will witness and I will be an eyewitness of that night of the 15th of July. I have witnessed so many things in the Middle East as a Palestinian, but I was not expecting that to happen in Turkey. That night, after a long day at the university, I was back at home having my dinner with my wife and my daughter. Then I was chatting with my wife. My daughter, she was studying pharmacy in Kemal Burgaz University. And out of sudden, I think just before Isha, maybe around 9 o'clock, she came and some of her Turkish friends text her saying that there is a military tank on the Bosphorus over there. So she came and said, Dad, there is military tanks in the Bosphorus. The first thing I was shocked. I said, even if Obama was the American president, if Obama will be visiting Istanbul, there will be no military tank on the street. And it took me maybe a few seconds of silence. And then I said to her, and I still remember that, I said, this is a military coup. And my second statement was that night, I said, if this, la qaddar Allah, will be successful, Turkey will go back 70 years. That my two reaction, that this is a military coup, and secondly, Turkey will go back. All the development happened in the last 70 years will be destroyed. And then I went without maybe unconscious, I went into the street and I saw with my naked eye these soldiers on Watan Jaddisi, on the headquarters of the Amniyat, that they were shooting Turkish citizens. This for me was a huge shock, that the soldiers opening fire on Turkish citizens, and I can see they were trying to hide. There is nothing to hide. I think there was some trees they were hiding behind. And what came to my mind is the Israeli soldiers. The Israeli soldiers shooting the Palestinian. That was the only comparison came to my mind at that moment when I see a lot of people injured. And I thought, how a soldier, a Turkish soldiers, either they are brainwashed or there is something I'm not aware of, and maybe I was not having enough research about Fathullah Gulen movement at that time. So I felt this is the coin of the Israelis. So these incident brought a lot of memories to me, because I witnessed. I was in Palestine in 1967 war when we lost the rest of Palestine. I was very younger at that time, so I still remember that moment. And for example, we were expecting some Arab soldiers and tanks coming to liberate, because this is what we were hearing about Jamal Abdel Nasser. Jamal Abdel Nasser were saying tonight. Or Ahmed Saeed, to be fair, Ahmed Saeed was saying on Sawt al-Arab that tonight we will be celebrating and Kulthum will be singing in Tel Aviv. So this is where we were expecting. So when we saw Arab tanks coming, we were Israeli tanks. We were expecting this is to be an Arab tank coming from Iraq, coming from Jordan, coming from Syria, etc. But when they start shooting at us, this is the moment I'm comparing it with the 15th of July. Shooting and shooting, killing and killing. That how I compare it together. And this is allow me to make my argument tonight that Israel, at least for my research I have done, especially with working for so many years to get from the British Foreign Office, which they reveal every 30 years. I spent so many years researching with this, and I came to the conclusion that Israel is a Western colonial project in the whole of the Middle East, and in particular of the Arab country. And I can talk with this, but I would like to highlight that this Western project, which still exists until now, it started with the British. It took, I call it, this is the British project, which started in 1800 with the religious British, and then with the builders of the British Empire in 1841, until they managed to have Campbell Bannerman document, and then having Balfour Declaration, and then they have the Sykes-Picot before that, and then they facilitate the establishment of Israel from 1917 until 1948. The scenario changed after the establishment of Israel, and allow me just to share these dates with you. The State of Israel was declared established on the 14th of May, 1948. After less than 1 year, in 1949, 3 military coups happened in Syria. 3 military coups happened in Syria in 1948. Hosni Zaim, Sami al-Hinnawi, and Adib al-Shishakli. Three military coups happened in 1948. I will share my argument later on. Then we have what I consider, I listened to my colleagues, Professor Ahmed, regarding Egypt, and I believe, and I can argue, that it was a military coup rather than a revolution in Egypt. So against the monarchy, Farouk at that time, we have the 1952. So we have 1949 in Syria, and Syria is strategically important. Egypt also strategically important in 1952. Then we have in Iraq, another important country. We have Abdul Karim Qasim military coup in 1958 against the royal family of the Ashraf. Then in Yemen, we have another military coup in 1962 against the Imamate ruling family in Yemen. Then we have Al-Qaddafi against also the Senussi family in 1969. And then we have in 1917 Hafez al-Assad military coup in Syria, which they call it Al-Haraka al-Tasihiyya, but I call it as military coup. So if we look regarding these Arab countries, in particular Egypt geopolitically, for me as an academician, it is the center of power in the Arab region. Anything happening in Egypt will affect the rest of the Arab country. If Egypt, I'm arguing, if Egypt is very strong, the whole of the Arab region is very strong. If Egypt is weak, the whole of the Arab region is weak. And my colleagues just highlighted on Israel and its border with Israel, and maybe the intellectual behind the 25th of January in Egypt, they haven't took this in consideration when the Muslim brothers came to power. So it started with Syria to establish a new regimes. And maybe if you read, and this is a book I have read it maybe 20-25 years ago by Copeland, The Game of Nations, and he is a CIA member, and he was focusing in Egypt on particular. Basically what the Americans in particular, after after they became the superpower, and Britain, the role of Britain after World War II was not the same, and the issue is passed to United States of America. America, one of its strategic point is to secure the state of Israel. And all these military coup to bring dictators, because any military leader, how he will rule? He's not a civilian. He will rule within like we have seen Hafd al-Assad, we have seen Jamal Abdel Nasser, then we have Sadat, then we have Mubarak, how they rule. So United States of America and Europe in particular, they are keen to bring these dictators to help securing the state of Israel. This is my connection. So the link between these military coup in the whole of the Arab region started with Syria and finished in Syria in 1917 with Hafd al-Assad, is to secure Israel existence and to protect the state of Israel. Maybe when I looked at the document in the British archive regarding Jordan from the beginning, since 1921, it was established by Churchill or decided by Churchill to serve when this state of Israel will be established later on. So there is a stability, if I may call. There was some attempt, but it was failed to topple the royal family of the Hashemite in Jordan. But Egypt, we have seen how it was ruled by military, and we have seen Syria how it was ruled by military, and we have seen Iraq how it was used with military. So in short, I argue that the military coup in the Arab country was mainly to establish a new reality of securing the state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Abdülfettah. It was a really interesting and informative talk. And you are very correct with your two of your reaction when you heard the coup attempt. But especially, you are correct with the one that Turkey would lose. It is 70 years of development. We can also mention that Turkey had huge progress in its democracy during the past 20 years, during that party time, actually, during the past 18 years. And also economic developments, social developments. Unfortunately, if the coup was successful, we would have the risk to lose all these positive developments. And usually I compare it with Egypt. As a person who lived in Egypt for about 1 year, I could see that really all these oppressive regimes and military coups in Egypt made the country very poor in every field, not only in its infrastructure or economy, but also culturally, socially, democratically, in all the fields. So if the coup attempt was successful in Turkey, probably we would have a similar picture. Alhamdulillah, it wasn't a successful one. And now we are today talking about these issues freely in a very democratic manner. So now we can come to our last speaker, Mehmet, Dr. Mehmet Özkan. He is joining us from the States, and he will give us a much more an international perspective on the July 15 coup attempt, and also he will also mention how people resist, why people resist to military coups. So please, Dr. Mehmet.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Telci. I really appreciate for the invitation, and it's great to be with this panel here discussing on the anniversary of 15th of July. I will let me take an issue from a broader perspective, because the question here is why and when people resist military coups. Every time, we see lots of military coups in the world, from Africa, from Latin America, we've seen in the past, and Middle East, it's always the case. So why people resist? This is a question both in the civilian military relationship literature and also other literature. That's the question that is hindering. Also, I think that will give us a perspective to contextualize Turkey in an international perspective. So if you look at in last 50 years, basically we can see there are 4 cases, like in literature. I mean, 4 cases. There are 4 cases that the people actually resisted to the military coup. Turkey is the latest one, but a very important one. Just very briefly, I don't want to go in detail, but first one was the France 1961. When Charles de Gaulle, then they defended Charles de Gaulle literally. And second one was sort of Russia, Borsias in 1991. And third case, we have seen 2002 Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, and the latest one 2016 in Turkey. When people went to street to defend both democracy and Erdogan government in Turkey. So this because it's not easy decision to go to civilian resistance when there's a coup. It's when you go out, you can lose your life possibly. There's an uncertainty. You don't know what will happen, and that's why it's a very difficult decision for anyone who goes out at that night. But the question is why people go out. If you look at this characteristic, perhaps I can say 4 or 5 characteristics why people go out that motivates them. If you look at these cases, all these leaders, they are really transformers in politics, both in domestic and international. That's why that makes Erdogan special in Turkish politics, because he really represents transformative politics in Turkish political arena. So in last 18 years now, Turkey, it was a different country 18 years ago. Now it's a totally different country, both economically, politically, socially, and international political wise. So this is one of the key issues: transformative politics. And second, all these type of leaders, they are really they have a charisma. They are strong leaders. They shape the discourse, they orient, and they rewrite the history. In a way, in Comites, they are like revolutionary in their way of dealing, their way of doing things, because they touch the untouchable issues, structural issues, always the case. So that gives people a sort of a new perspective that there is a new country is emerging. That's why we see we see the discourse of new Turkey in Turkey with Erdogan, that we don't discuss new Turkey in other contexts. It's the same case with with other cases as well, France, Russia, and also Venezuela. It was the case. And there is another element that I want to add here. Although they are in power, they are very powerful, they keep continuing having an anti-establishment image. They are inside, but at the same time they are the transformers. So that's why people really detach those leaders from the structure, status quo structure. So they see them as a hope. That is why people really connect with them. They see their destiny is equal to leaders' destiny. That's why they go out to defend when there's a military coup, because they see they believe that they share the same destiny, same future with the leader. If something happens to them, probably same thing will happen to them. So this is a psychological feeling, of course, that is supported by the facts that he transformed the country, he did lots of change in the country. But that's a psychological feeling that feeling same destiny. Because leaders, they connect their leaders directly. They connect with the people directly. There is no institutionalized connection, institutionalized mediation. They connect with them directly. Their discourse, for example, in Venezuela, Chavez was doing like Hola Presidente. He was having every Saturday he was having a TV show, speaking directly to people, getting phone calls from the people to respond. In Turkey as well, there's a huge discourse. If there's any crisis, anything happens, people look at Erdogan, what he will say, which way he will show us. In 18 years, we have seen that in all cases. That is like he's the one who shapes because people believe in them. They see as if it's their destiny, and they should follow this leader. And they sort of eliminate the institutions that they were in between in the past, sort of speaking between the people and the leader. So they establish their own way directly in that way. But when it comes to military coup, there is another dimension. They resist. There are some cases, for example, if even they could be like popular leaders. If they don't resist, probably they will lose. For example, in 1953, Musaddiq in Iran, for example, he had the public support, but he did not resist. And he thought that could be resolved easily. So leaders, they don't resist military coup, although they could be popular. If they bow, usually people don't stand with them, in the way. So, they should show their courage, when things happen. We have seen that in Turkey very clearly, 15th of July, through iPhone, through FaceTime, as President Erdogan spoke to people directly, invite people to the street. And when they see their leaders are resisting, knowing that, any result can happen, including death or whatever can happen, then people go to street knowing that their lives will be in danger. That is the very important aspect. That's why, I think we should really understand when we look at this country, especially in the case of Turkey, because now we see, that people fail to understand the contextualized 15th of July event in Turkey if you don't understand this symbiotic relations between people and the leader. That's one of the key points, because this symbiotic relationship we call between leader and people, they define the politics. They define, and they believe there is a new future, and they continue to support it despite all the difficulties, despite the military coup attempt. That's why it is difficult for any military coup to succeed when there is such a strong leader and strong support by the public. But let me tell you something. In Turkey we had lots of military coups as well, as 60s, 80s, and 1990s. But people did not resist. That's just another question we should respond, because Erdogan represents something more than that. Because people associate themselves with Erdogan, that was different, and that never happened in the past. That's why we have a different era in the history. I think Erdogan has shaped that. It's also, first time in Turkish psychology, people understood that, you can resist the military coup and you can win it. That gives another self-confidence to the people, and that will be very difficult for anyone in Turkey who thinks that they can make a military coup in Turkey. It's very difficult, because there is a symbiotic relationship has been established between the leader and the people. That's why 15th of July has a transformative event as well in Turkish political history, both for the people's perspective and the leadership perspective, and at the same time, when we look at the results in that sense. That's why, finally, I will say, we should really focus on this symbiotic relationship. Otherwise, we cannot really understand, what happened. I know there are lots of different stories, different individual experiences. But, that is the main essence why people went to resist, to the military coup, and why people won and stood behind their leader. That I think many people at international level, they have difficult to understand. We should really emphasize on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mehmet. It was also a very interesting talk and very correct approach to explaining the July 15 victory of the Turkish people, I would say, and also you included other cases by comparing France, Russia, Venezuela to Turkey. Probably, as you also plan, it will be a very good scholarly article as well. So we are looking forward to reading it. So maybe now I can ask brief questions to our panelists, maybe one question to each, or maybe any of you, if you have any idea on the question, you can also contribute. But I would like to start with Professor Kireçci. Professor Kireçci, you mentioned that after the coup attempt, you traveled abroad to Europe, and you find out that European response was a pure disbelief of what happened, and they were not really aware what happened, and they were not really aware what FETÖ is. Maybe I can ask, since we now it's been 4 years of the coup attempt, and we've been trying to explain to international audience or international community what FETÖ is, how dangerous they are, and how the military coup, the failed coup attempt was bad idea. So did we achieve, in your opinion, did we achieve to explain ourselves to the international community, and what can we do more to explain to them? Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that. And another question I was actually thinking before, whether the coup attempt and FETÖ organization, how it can have a relation on Turkish-American relations. Your microphone, Professor. Just a second. Yeah.
Akif Hocam.
Akif Hocam, microphone is...
Unmute, Professor Akif.
Okay.
All right, I didn't mute it anyway. No, the first answer.
The
answer to your first question is no. We were not able to explain ourselves or the coup, or the reasons for coup, or the real nature of this FETÖ network. No, but on the other hand, when you look at the certain centers in Europe, we travel a lot. We meet with people, civilians, officials. Whether the major question is whether they would like to listen to what really happened or not. The question is really, are they interested in the reality of the matter? Obviously not. There's a huge sort of negativity about the Turkish politics, what Turkey is voicing in the region and in international arena. And then what I've discovered is that in many European and American media outlets, even the coup night was not given clearly. People, in fact, even like lay people, regular people who would wonder what really happened on that night, they don't have a clear picture of what really happened. It's very much monitored and sort of curtailed, if you will. So this is one aspect of the problem. And on another aspect, how much real information, how much clarity they want to have. And I have certain doubts on that account. But would this be discouraging for us to not to express ourselves to outside world, to our allies in Europe, our allies in NATO? No, obviously no. We should keep trying to do our best in terms of what we are doing and why we are doing what we have been trying to do. So in many cases, more than several occasions, Turkey's foreign policy decisions and even the internal decisions within the domestic politics portrayed as, wow, Turkey is becoming a Sharia. Well, wow, Turkey is becoming a sort of despotic regime. Wow, no, Turkey is becoming more independent. Turkey is becoming more democratic. This was the idea. And anything which would obstacle this kind of view, we should simply struggle against, we should simply fight against. So Turkey is a democracy, Turkey is a republic, and it is going to remain as democracy. And I myself am certain about that, and like many other citizens of this country who actually wouldn't sort of second to think when they endangered their lives on that night. So they went out for their freedom and for their democratic system. The real question is this: Turkish democracy is nothing less than any European democracy. I think we are not on the same term at this issue with our European friends. we want equal treatment when we sit on the table. That is what we would like. I think that this is the point where they differ from what we actually are trying to establish. In terms of the coup and FETÖ's position in the United States, it is hampering Turkish-American relations on many accounts. But this is mostly not decision of Turkish government, but the decision of United States government. We have several issues with the United States in, for instance, their relations with the certain groups in Syria, in Iraq. Their support to PYD and their derivatives is a major problem with Turkey and Turkish and American government. And still, the extradition process of Gülen as the head of this FETÖ, the terror network, is a big problem between Turkey and America. And Turkish authorities passed on tens of thousands of documentations to American judiciary offices. And I'm sure they are examining the documentations. They are heavy, they are loaded, but they would like from Turkish authorities to establish a hardcore evidence ordering Gülen the coup attempt. Well, if you ask anybody around any street, any city of this country, I believe there's a huge consensus on that, but it is the choice of American government that they sort of turn a blind eye on this matter. But Turkey is trying to expand its relations with not only with the United States, but also with other European countries, other NATO members. Despite all of these difficulties, Germany is another case, for instance, which is giving shelter to many pushes. They actually run away from Turkey. Greece is another case. They are sheltering the hitman in plural, the officers who were actually charged by killing the president of this country. And then a NATO ally, a NATO member and a neighbor country is giving shelter to those people. They were caught red-handed in their attempt to kill the president of a country. All of these are big issues, actually. In all times, these are the reasons for war, actually, right? But Turkey is still very friendly, very, how should I put this? Turkey is not trying to create further mud in the region than there already is. So this is a very constructive. Turkey is a very constructive force in this region. And our objective is not to become the source of the stabilization in the region, not to become the source of, how should I put this, terrorizing the region with our political choices, but rather to establish stability within the country, democracy, strengthen democracy within the country, and to expand this stability to its surrounding. That is the major objective of Turkish government.
Thank you, Professor Kireçci. It was a very right and informative comment, and thank you for that. Professor,
can I add something to support Professor Akif's argument?
Please.
From witnessing that night, I don't know in Turkey, but in the Arab country, they referred in the news in my generation to the BBC. The BBC is the most objective, if I may put it, in my generation. If we can't hear anything from South al-Arab or Cairo or other country, so we go to Huna London. This is London, which is the
4 p.m. Cairo.
That's right. So that night, in maybe this is what I recall when I returned back home early morning of the 16th of July. Then I start looking at my emails, etc. I realized that the BBC were searching for any Turkish living in the UK to be in agreement with this failed military coup against President Erdogan. And even someone sent to me a Turkish, I think at King's College, doing engineering, and this was circulated widely in the first week after the 15th of July. They were begging him to come to the BBC to talk against Erdogan. So there is no objectivity when it comes, unfortunately, to this part of the world, in particular of Turkey as a leading Muslim country, and trying to do as a regional power. And also as a comparison, just to add, if you look at the Arab media, in particular in United Arab Emirates, they were waiting to celebrate. Even they did not wait to celebrate, but they were throwing news like President Erdogan left the country and he is in his way to Germany. That's what was in their mind. And I think after a year, I met with an Algerian journalist who was working in one of these media in United Arab Emirates, and he told me most senior leaders in United Arab Emirates in particular, they were waiting to celebrate the success of the failed military coup. And then we can understand because some document has been released that Dahalan, unfortunately, he's a Palestinian working with Mohammed bin Zayed. He's his military advisor. They gave him the citizenship, etc., etc. And he was part of this failed attempt of military coup. So with Europe, I don't think we are expecting anything good for the media, and maybe with the latest developments against the decision of President Erdogan.
Professor Ahmet recently experienced a similar issue. Maybe he can briefly mention.
Yes, for the Hagia Sophia issue, Hagia Sophia converting or reverting it to the original from a museum to a mosque.
Sophia, we can realize.
BBC contacted me, BBC World Service, and they said, what do you think about the decision? They said they want to host me on the program. I said, I support the decision. Then they hang up and they never came back. So I felt that they were looking for someone to criticize the decision. They are not happy with somebody who support the decision. And I want to compare this to the democracy. They want regimes or states to obey their wishes in the Middle East. So they need weak regimes, weak governments who doesn't have any legitimacy, who doesn't have popular support, so they can impose their agenda to these countries, like if they are weak as a military regime or as a kingdom or whatever. So it's easier for them to impose their wishes. But with Turkey, you can see this frustration with them. They are not happy with bargaining with Turkey. In the past, they get used to the fact that they can impose anything they want. They say, you are part of NATO, you have to do this and that. And they always also keep lecturing about democracy and other issues, human rights and minority issues, blah, blah. And at the end now, they lose this advantage. They also lose these moral grounds because they did not support military struggle, military resistance in Turkey. They kind of benignly supported the military coup, and now they lost the moral support toward Turkey, but they keep lecturing. I just want to mention that why Middle East is similar to also Turkey, and we are in the same boat. I always tell them, because they want a region to be very tired, to be very weak, to be like very ineffective, so that they can maintain their advantages. And they use several tactics. They use divide and rule, divisions between different fault lines. They always explore and invest in it, like the Kurdish issue. Not only Kurdish issue, they also invest in, for example, in North Africa, they invest in the Amazigh or Berber Arab debate. In Iraq, they always provoke Arab against Kurds and vice versa. So divisions, very important. Economic pressures are another tool they use. They also ignite like civil wars. I mean, I am not saying these are totally because of them, but they support these rather than extinguishing the fire. They always, these big powers, major powers, add oil on the fire. So we have civil wars, ethnic fightings, ethnic conflicts. Military coup is one of them, and it's experienced all over. And the issue with the military coup, even the regime is anti-Western, like Ba'ath regime in Syria or even in Iraq, because it is a military regime, it is weak. They keep the country weak, so the country cannot achieve its full potential as a state, as a development, or as other measures. So even like the Assad regime, at least in appearance, he's against Israel or the West, and anti-colonial, etc. But at the end, because he keeps, even before this civil war, he keeps the country very weak. So if you are weak, what can you do to Israel? So this is preferred. Even other countries, if you are weak like Egypt, what can you do for your own people? So it is preferred. Even anti-Western regime, military regime, is preferred over maybe semi-pro-Western democratic regime, because at the democracy, if you give a chance to people, today maybe they can work with you, tomorrow they may say no, so they don't like it. I also experienced the coup night, just one note. As a sociologist, it wasn't clear whether it was a coup or a kind of a terror measures, etc. But I said in like 11 p.m., 11:02, I tweeted that if this is a coup, we should go to the streets and should resist. And people, of course, did it more instinctually. And Turkish people, they also then President Erdogan, or Prime Minister, President at that time, he called the people, and people responded big time. So they did not sacrifice from their democracy. One Syrian also, I met, I heard one Syrian saying, this is done in Syria like almost every night. We had lived this situation like 5-7 years. And Turkey, you people in Turkey, you experience this, government or some government forces, trying to kill people, you experience in one night, Unfortunately, Syrian people is suffering. If we lose the battle, we would suffer the thing. And one major thing in, I think 2007, I visited Portugal, and they were celebrating Democracy Day. I was thinking, why we don't celebrate a Democracy Day in Turkey? Because the military gave up on democracy with their own control, their own version. They always kept the overseeing on the democracy. But the 15th of July became our Democracy Day, and of course we paid the price, but we also proudly commemorate these days, and we will not let it be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ahmet. I had actually another question for you, but I had to
No problem.
I had to skip that because we had two other speakers I will ask. Professor Abdülfettah, I would like to ask, we experienced the military coup in Egypt and how Egyptian relation with Israel shifted, or how it became very good after the military coup. And what is your take on the following question? If the coup attempt was successful in Turkey, how would that affect Israeli policy in the Middle East? Would it serve to Israeli policies? Would it serve to invasion policies of Israel in Palestine? How would it have an effect?
Let me put it within a theoretical framework. I'm a theorist, so I try to put everything within theoretical framework. I said that Egypt is the center of power in the Arab countries. For Turkey, it is the center of power for the Muslim East. So we have two important regional power here: Egypt and Turkey. Yani, for example, I look at the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia. They are marginal, even through history here. But Egypt and Turkey are very significant and very important. Yani, imagine with me that Morsi was successful, just for the sake of argument. And there was a collaboration between Turkey, between the center of power in the Arab region and the center of the power in the Muslim East. This will help the whole region of the Middle East to shine. So the think tank in the Western country and in America and in Israel, they know this quite well, and they felt, number one, with the failed attempt military coup in Turkey on the 15th of July, they would like, if this was successful, this will lead, unfortunately, as I said to my daughter that night, it will demolish all the achievement for 70 years in Turkey, and then Israel will act more strongly in the region. So, yani, some reports, it was translated to me from Hebrew, from some Israeli newspaper, that also they were waiting. They were waiting for the news, in particular Netanyahu at that time. He was waiting to hear, to celebrate that sort of thing. So if and alhamdulillah, wallahi alhamdulillah, that night, with the courage of the Turkish people, how they went out, even before President Erdogan voice was reached to the people. I have seen this on the street. Do you know why, Akhi? Very simple, very simple. The Turkish people, they have went through several military coups, and they have seen how, when using the term Professor Ahmed used, the askar, the jaysh, the soldiers, they have taken in Turkey, and how the freedom of the Turkish people has been. So they felt this is their opportunity to come. Normally in IR we say that the state should protect the people. That night it's the vice versa. It's the people who protect the government there. So yes, if that military coup was successful, I don't have any doubt Israel will be more stronger now in the region. But let me just add one thing. When I was listening to Professor Ahmed, several people asked me that night, "You are not Turkish. Why you are with us on the street?" And I feel this is a good question. You should, I'm sorry, putting between, you are a foreigner. You should be in your home thinking about what will happen rather than coming outside. I felt here I'm not talking as an academician. I felt as a Palestinian who suffered on the hand of the Israelis, and I felt Turkey is the last hope in the Muslim country. And I can count how Turkey compare with the Arab regime supporting the Palestinian question, and they paid a lot of price about this. So I felt I need to be part of my, yes, I'm not a Turkish, but I feel protecting this country and standing with my friends, if I may call it, my brother and sister in Turkey. At least I can show solidarity at that point. But then I don't know. All these memories come to me that night. My grandfather, he's a Palestinian, but he served as a soldier on the time of Sultan Abdul Hamid in Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara for 20 years. So this is you see all this coming to you on that night, and you need to be with your big family, your Turkish family outside.
Okay, thank you, Professor Awaisi, for your comments. And now I would like to ask my last question to Dr. Mehmet. Dr. Mehmet, you are based in the United States and you are working for the Maarif Foundation. We know that you've been doing lots of activity for Turkish schools there. And but there is some question come to my mind, which is related with your field, but also related with the Middle East. We see that some Arab countries here in the Middle East have been supporting FETÖ organization in many aspects with different tools. For instance, also some of the countries are a bit reluctant or hesitant to give or to understand Turkey's concerns, and for instance, they are a bit reluctant to transfer the schools. I mean, I would like to ask you, what is the motivation of these countries? I mean, what is the reason, for instance? Is it the international pressure on some of these countries, or do these countries take this FETÖ issue as their own foreign policy agenda, or they have been doing this with the motivation from other countries, with the guidance from other countries? And also, maybe you can also elaborate on whether, if we are not good in public diplomacy, maybe this could be the case also. So what is your take on this?
Right, thank you very much. I mean, look, somebody mentioned already here in the panel. I mean, actually, we try to explain that, but they don't want to listen in some part. I mean, especially in the West, you know, in Germany they host, as you know, a bunch of FETÖ people in USS as well. And in the Middle East, there's a different dynamics, because those who see Turkey or Erdogan as a rival, and they try to support, enemy's friend in a way. That's another issue. But I think in general, if you look at this global picture, they are weakening. They are weakening a lot. Today around 200 schools has been transferred to Turkish Maarif Foundation, with the relations with Turkey and the other countries. And even in the United States, for example, I can say there's a confused picture, for example, on the they have lots of schools and situation of FETÖ, for example, just recently in Alabama, they could not open a school. There's a difference. There's a different stories, but in each country's case is different, because there are different elements, decentralized structure sometimes, but then each case is different. But in general, I mean, I think Turkey is doing well. I don't know what Turkey can do well, because, if you look at the FETÖ, they had lots of schools. They hijacked Turkey's soft power through education. That was the case. Now Turkey is reclaiming that soft power that belongs to Turkey and Turkish people. And most of the things they did abroad, it was financed by Turkish businessmen money as well. So Turkey is reclaiming, you know, what has been hijacked by others. So, but I think in Pakistan, for example, you know, Pakistan Constitutional Court has declared FETÖ as a terrorist organization, and there are different cases in many countries. I think Turkey is doing well. You know, we should also understand, you know, the more Turkey becomes an important actor, both on region and global level, then of course, you know, the different countries take different positions, trying to undermine Turkey's issues and trying to damage, you know, Turkey's activities in region and beyond. That we should understand. Even if you look at the case of PKK and, you know, PYD has been supported by the West, you know, so it's sometimes difficult. You know, it looks. Also, you know, as Dr. Uysal mentioned, you know, we deal with an international media, you know, that Turkey has been perceived negatively, unfortunately, you know, because of these political reasons mostly. So, and you are dealing at both structural and also image-wise, you know, we try to explain it. But I think it's like, if you look at the 4 years ago, they are more weak now, they are more weakened. And day by day, they are getting weak. I mean, what I see, I think their future will be like Cuban diaspora in a way, because, you know, there is a little Cuba in Miami, those who visit in Miami, you know, in there, when you go there, they have cigars and everything. They live with the romanticism of Cuba 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And what happens, you know, I give the Cuban diaspora example because Cubans is a negative example. When Obama or any leader, they want to make relations better with Cuba, they sort of block this. You know, they use their power to damage these relations. I think, you know, FETÖ issues all over the world, that will be one of the negative diaspora for Turkey. You know, in coming years, perhaps, you know, we will see. We don't know how long it will take, but, you know, in the West is having, especially United States, having a second Cuban diaspora, you know, that's ready to poison relations between two countries. Although, you know, of course, you know, Turkey and United States relations is much better because there are lots of multi-dimensions, and from trade to business to all aspects. Cannot be compared perhaps with Cuba, United States relations, but that's a negative diaspora, and we will see that. But they are more weakened. I think Turkey is explaining well, you know, with their actions, and I think every year they see also public support from Turkey for this case. You know, it's not decreasing; it's increasing. You know, people even within Turkey, people understand that this 15th of July issue is a very important issue. You know, it has been very important for Turkey, and I mean, you can see today even there are more support even within Turkey. So that makes, of course, people think twice abroad. I mean, that's why I think we cannot blame public diplomacy. We should say, you know, there are some things we should do, but I think we are on the right track.
Thank you to all of our panelists. If there are any comments, maybe you can contribute. We are already almost 90 minutes. We can conclude as well.
Thank you for the invitation and for this program.
Okay, thank you to you all again, and thank you for the audience. And we hope to welcome you in our future panels, hopefully. Thank you. Have a nice evening.